Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. This is another episode of Wireframe, and today we're going to be talking about something that I didn't think I was going to be talking about today, but it came up in a conversation. It's Apple's new design language called Liquid Glass. Literally just heard about it in a meeting earlier today with a colleague of mine. He was like, hey, did you just see this liquid glass thing? I said, what are you talking about? And obviously, I was busy working, I guess, and didn't get the news, but I have to talk about it because it is awful. But before we talk about it, the first thing I need to talk about is last week, because I was at a conference last week. I was at DDX here in New York with a couple of people who I know who were speaking, with another couple of people who I didn't know speaking as well. And admittedly, my wife and I both attended the conference, and we actually thought it was very good, all things considered. And we're saying that because normally when we go to a conference, it's usually in some kind of like hotel or even maybe a convention center. This one happened to have been in a co-working space, so it's a lot smaller in terms of the area. But in terms of all the little perks that they provided with lunch and even the happy hour afterwards, which is excellent. Talks were very good overall. There was a couple of ones that probably didn't land, but a few of them really very much did. Without speaking about the people that I know directly in terms of bias, I will say that one of the co-founders of Play was there to speak on a topic about basically how we typically end up going over after low-hanging fruit all the time, and how he's kind of advocating for us to kind of go over the harder things first. In particular, the story he was talking about how, if you needed to train a monkey to juggle flaming torches on a pedestal, would you build the pedestal first or train the monkey? So he asked the audience, pedestals, people would raise their hand, and then monkeys, people would raise their hand. And he went on to say that he believes that you would train the monkey first. And the reason you train the monkey first is because it is the harder of the two tasks, right? Building a pedestal, in comparison, much easier than trying to train a monkey to juggle flaming torches. And I agree with that. I think in my day-to-day, when I'm trying to tackle a problem, I'm trying to tackle the hardest part of the problem first to see if it's even feasible to get to the easier stuff later. And that's something that I typically do in my usual work anyway. But we do see in the industry that people tend to go for the low-hanging fruit a lot first. We see this all the time when we have some new design regime that comes in and wants to play around with color and change things up that way. And sometimes it looks like it's an easy thing, but in reality there's a lot of things that could go wrong in there, and we will certainly get back to that. And then the final talk that was wrapped up in there is from a person who I didn't catch the name of, but I would look up. But they had a design agency that stemmed from their work on Marvel movies. So they were the people who were behind like the Wakandan sand effect. They did a whole bunch of research behind all that stuff. And then they were taking that kind of idea and explaining how they believe what the future kind of like brings. So he ended up showing like this thing in 2001 Space Odyssey where this person is video calling with their daughter from, a long distance away. And that's, back several decades ago where that kind of was introduced as an idea. And now we do that all the time, like with no big deal. So it's interesting when I wasn't planning on talking about, I barely looked at any of the stuff that's out there, but I wanted to put this out there because what is Apple thinking? Let's just go ahead and go exactly to what I'm seeing over here. All right. I have an error now. Looks like it's okay. All right, let's just go and see what happens here. If I'm recording or not, who knows? I'm just going to keep it moving. All right, so what I want to show you here is Apple's new design language called Liquid Glass. This is something that was shown on The Verge over here. Apparently, it was part of their new releases of some OS stuff, and it's explaining liquid glass, but the idea here is that everything looks like this. Let's go ahead and zoom this in here. And as you can see, everything is this like monochromatic looking, light colored something or other. I don't know what they're thinking, right? Like this looks like something we would have seen back 10, 15 years ago, when we were all playing around with the idea of this, glass-like look. I have not seen, personally, the glass-like look on any UIs these days. So it's very wild to me that they decided to go ahead and do this. And as a, point of comparison, talking about several years ago, we had this. Windows did this already. Windows had something called Windows Aero, A-E-R-O, and it had this glass-like effect. And one of the things that came out of this, before we even discuss accessibility, but one of the things that came out of this was that the GPU for the machine would be noticeably higher in order for this to work. And that's because if you had a solid background here, right, then you're not having to process anything behind it, right? You need to ever consider what's behind this thing because it's solid. I don't need to worry about it. But because I'm considering the pixels behind it and need to do calculations to provide the blur and any other potential refractions that it might be having, it needs to do a lot more processing power. So I'm very curious to know what the deal here is. Like, are we just gonna, have we made this better in terms of performance? I mean, again, accessibility aside, like, is this going to be better in terms of performance from what we did 15 years ago? Surely the technology is better, but in terms of processing, pixels translucently, I know in the web, when we blur things get slower that way too. So I really don't know how this is going to work out, right? I really don't know from a performance standpoint. Now, let's talk about accessibility here, people, because this is the thing that's wild to me, right? Like, from an accessibility point of view, we have been so determined to have good contrast between a background and a foreground, right? We've been very determined to make sure that that contrast ratio is at least 4.5 to 1 in most cases. Granted, there's lots of other, auxiliary things that you could think about. Maybe it's 3.1, whatever. The number we've been talking about is 4.5 to 1 when we're talking about contrast, something we talked about actually last week. It's very clear, literally and figuratively, that this cannot be accessible. There's no way, right? If we were going to go ahead and start color picking this stuff, there's no way that the white text on these translucent backgrounds, especially with these lighter colored backgrounds, would ever be accessible, right? So it is wild to me that their entire design language is now meant to be inaccessible, right? Now, granted, there must be some additional settings in there that allow you to make things more high contrast. I'm confident that they have done that. And I don't know where that confidence is coming from. I'm assuming just because it's a large company that, they care about people somewhere in there, right? But it's also possible that no one cares, right? Like this is the way of the world these days. Is we're caring less and less about each other, and it's unfortunately showing in these very large organizations that are making very large changes in this particular case, where you wonder if other people were taken into account, right? Because at least from my perspective, just from an aesthetic point of view, this looks awful. Just baseline. But additionally, I would be immediately looking out for how I can make this more accessible for my own use. So I'm hoping that there are user preferences involved in this that make it so that it is usable. Luckily enough for me, I actually don't use a Mac computer for my personal stuff. I actually only use it for my work, which is that computer that's back there. And I'm an Android user otherwise, so probably won't affect me too much, other than, of course, my day to work. But yet to be seen. I'm looking forward to seeing what other people talk about in this particular space, you know, what kind of, again, customizations that are allowed in this area. But right now, it's not looking so great. And this also, just to be clear, is not a stab at, oh no, it's another redesign, oh, immediately it's bad. There's some of that for me in there, but that's not the core issue, right? The core issue is the lack of contrast, right? That's the core issue here. If this had better contrast, then I would just say, yep, they have a redesign, and that's it, right? But this is much more of a bigger deal because of the accessibility. And I don't know what the performance implications are going to be, but if history has told us anything, they might be significant. So let me know what you think down there in the comments. Moving right along, though, there's a couple of things happening this week that I want to let you know about. I'm going to bring them up here. Let's see here. So this week we have the question with Ben Callahan, and that'll be open. It's open today, and it'll be available until about Wednesday, I think, this week. Where on episode 54 we're gonna have Lauren Laprete, who is an absolute powerhouse in terms of design systems. Lots of experience on a few different systems in terms of both high-level IC and managers. Let's see what the question is here this week. The question this week is, embrace the excruciating weight of systems thinking. Oh, yes, my goodness. Yeah. Definitely going to answer this thing on this week. However, the problem is this time. So the other thing that I need to kind of let people know about is that there is a event happening this Thursday at noon, which is Craft Across Design Tokens. This is hosted by the folks at INFA. So if you're familiar with the Inspect and Reflect series, this is the same group of people who organized this. And I'm going to be on a panel with Kalig, Brad, and Samantha talking about design tokens. You can imagine with this particular group of people the opinions that will be shared. And this is unfortunately happening at the same time as Ben's question. So a little bit of a conflict. I do know that Craft Across will be recorded, as most of the info stuff is. So in the event that you're looking to join one thing or another, the question is recorded, but it takes a while for those things to come out. So if you're looking to be a part of something immediately, I would actually, kind of partially recommend that you go to the question and then watch the recording for Craft Across. But if you're not interested in whatever, the question is going on, and you're much more interested in design tokens, which I know people are, and potentially ask some questions for the panel, definitely come to Craft Across and join us in there. There's quite a bit of people that are already signed up according to the event, so I'm looking forward to that. All right. So those are the events that I know about at the moment this week. There's a couple more later on this month that I'll definitely be talking about as they come up, but those are the two ones that I know about. Other things, we got that, and jobs. Sorry, I haven't really been keeping up with the jobs recently. So sorry about that, but that's going to just be a matter of, I guess, again, looking on LinkedIn, looking at the Design System Slack. You know what? Let me look at the Slack right now. Let me see what's going on in there. All right. So, because I think I did see something that was posted recently when it came to jobs. Let's look at Connect Jobs. Okay, so the most recent one was actually today, and there's someone over at Stripe looking for a senior design systems design contractor to help with Stripe's design system for the web platform team. So, something to look out for there. There's a whole bunch of emojis on it already. Knapsack is hiring. There's a couple of roles there. There's a UX engineer role, software engineer role, and a product analyst role. And as of last week on Friday, there was a post for the team over at 1Password. There's a senior design systems designer opened up over there. So, okay, we got 3 jobs over there. That's great, and they're actually pretty significant ones for the design system community. So if you're looking out there, definitely look at the Design System Slack. If I remember to post these in the Discord that I have, I will do that. But again, I'm just still a little bit busy from doing some work today and over the weekend. So look out for that stuff. Other than that, it was great to speak about Apple Glass or Liquid Glass or whatever that stuff is. I guess it was great to speak about it. But anyway, let me know your comments in the below about that kind of stuff. Play nice in there, and I'll see you next time.